Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brady Batiste says, "Give me the rock." Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Friday, November 21st, 2025. And it's my official duty to welcome you into episode 509 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to Value City Arena. I am sitting here in the media room, a couple hours removed now from Ohio State improving to 5-0 on the season with a convincing 91-58 win against Western Michigan. This was a game that was over early. Ohio State did what it was supposed to do against a team that it was supposed to do it against. The Buckeyes scored 10 seconds into the game. John Mobley Jr. threw a lob to Christoph Tilley, and he drew a foul, hit 2 free throws. Ohio State then never trailed. It was quickly 5-0, 7-2, 15-4, 18-6, and then it was 18-12 when things really went sideways for the Broncos, and Ohio State showed offensively what things really look like when the offense is clicking, when things are flowing. Ohio State blew the game wide open. This is essentially where I decided it was over. Ohio State went ahead 20-12 when Tilley threw a lob to, or rather just threw a pass to John Mobley Jr., who was wide open on the left block. He laid it in. That made it 20-12 Ohio State with 9:51 to go in the first half. And then with 5 minutes to go in the first half, so 4 minutes, 51 seconds pass, Ohio State had put together a 21-2 run that included a 17-0 run at one point in there. And it was just, it was over. This was a mismatch, and this was Ohio State turning that mismatch into a sizable victory that allowed them to accomplish a couple of goals in this one, and also still, wasn't perfect. There's still plenty of things that they can take out of this. They can focus on. They had 5 of the 12 turnovers came in the last couple of minutes of the game when, the final outcome was already well determined, but you still had some guys throwing the ball around. Like, you can certainly look at that. There's nits to pick. But ultimately, the big takeaway for me in this one is that this is what Ohio State was supposed to do. And really, this is the first time this season that we've seen Ohio State put it together on both ends. That was a primary talking point from Coach Jake Diebler when this one was over. Looking at the box score, Ohio State, it didn't shoot the cover off the ball. The Buckeyes were 49.2% from the floor, 32 of 65, only 9 of 29 from 3, 31%. So on a night when Ohio State scores 91 points, it only hit 9 3-pointers, which is a little surprising, kind of given this team's ability on most nights to score from deep. But then you look at the other side, and Western Michigan was 33.9% from the floor, 21 of 62, only hit 5 of 22 threes. That's 22.7%. Crazy stat here. Western Michigan turned it over 16 times, and Ohio State turned that into 32 points. So every time the Broncos turned it over, Ohio State came away with 2 points. Don't feel like we see that super often. Ohio State got 46 of its 91 points in the paint, so it had a 46-26 advantage in points in the paint, and led for 39 minutes and 50 seconds. The lead got as high as 43 points. Ohio State was up by 43 with 11 minutes and 57 seconds to go. Now, I have a personal, people who listen to the podcast know, I keep play-by-play, and I'll keep play-by-play really late into a game. But the unofficial rule that I have is that when Ohio State goes up 30, I stop keeping play-by-play. And on the rare occasions that I've covered this team and they've been down by 30, which has very seldom happened, but I still keep play-by-play in that case because I feel like the intricacies of what Ohio State's doing while down 30 are things I might want to refer to later. But once a team is up 30, there's really not a whole lot, I feel like, to gain or to really learn about a whole lot. But in this case, Ohio State was up 30 in the first half. And I just thought to myself, I need I need to keep myself really kind of invested in the play-by-play right now and keep it going. And so eventually I got to a point, I stopped keeping play-by-play when Amari Bynum scored to make it 67-30 during the second half. And I said, okay, that's good enough. And so then I spent the last couple of minutes just jotting down some observations of a couple of players, a couple of thoughts that I had, rather than focusing on, okay, who had the closeout on this three-pointer and who came up with the tip that led to the offensive rebound, that led to the putback, that led to the, like, they're up 37. That stuff didn't matter a whole lot. So I'm going to get into some of that stuff here in a moment. Just a couple of notes that I wrote down, some observations, some thoughts I have on a couple of players, because we saw the Buckeyes empty the bench. Jake Diebler played everybody that could play. Even Braylon Nash got in for the last minute, 18 seconds. And shout out to Braylon Nash. He had a 1 trillion in the game. Did not record a statistic. But then, like, you go down the list, John Mobley led the team with 28 minutes and 2 seconds. Tayson Chapman played 6 minutes and 36 seconds. But otherwise, you had 10 guys play at least 10 minutes. They were very deliberate of making substitutions early and often, and using this game to really try to build some depth and get some experience for some guys. That was a big talking point in interviews that we had here at the Shot on Thursday, that this game, and then now Ohio State will host Mount St. Mary's next week on Tuesday before going to Pitt and starting off what will be a whole new section of the schedule. But these two last home games give the Buckeyes opportunities to get some of the bench players going and to get them on the floor, to get them a little more comfortable, just put Ohio State in a situation where it knows a little bit more about the guys that will be coming off the bench. And so we got some glimpses into a few guys here. A couple of stats individually that really jump out. First of all, I mean, Ohio State only played Bruce Thornton 25 minutes. He took 5 shots, had 11 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds, 25 minutes. You know, this is not a Bruce Thornton game we're really going to remember. But the fact that he didn't have to log 35 minutes in mid-November is probably a pretty good sign for Ohio State going forward. Because there has been some talk about, like, when things didn't look super great in some of the other games, Diebler said he felt that fatigue maybe was an issue for some guys. He didn't specifically cite, like, Bruce Thornton, but if you can play your 4th-year starter for only 25 minutes and still win by 33, I think that's you take that. So he had 11. Christoph Tilley led the team with 17. He was 5 of 11 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3. He hit all 6 of his free throws. So inside the 3-point line, he was 4 of 7. 2 rebounds, a steal. But here's the crazy one. I haven't had time to look into this, but I wonder if Ohio State has ever had a center finish a game with as many as 7 assists and 0 turnovers. That seems significant. So the 7 assists, career high for Tilley. He is now tied for the team lead. He's tied with John Mobley Jr. for the team lead at 19 assists through 5 games. And that's, again, Ohio State's 7-foot center. The Buckeyes got double-doubles from both Devin Royal and Amari Bynum. This is Royal's 4th double-double of his career, first this season, so his first while playing the 3. And this is obviously Amari Bynum's first double-double of his Ohio State career. He finished with 12 and 10. Devin had 10 and 10. As you go a little bit further down the bench, Ivan Yagovin had 6 rebounds, which ties a career high. He played 16 minutes and 8 seconds. He also had 5 points. And Colin White had a career high 5 rebounds in 11 minutes and 37 seconds off the bench. He added 3 points. Gabe Cupps hit a 3-pointer. Had a very Gabe Cupps-esque defensive or sequence rather, where we tried to take some charges that did not get called, but he I'm looking for it. I thought I had it still here. Pretty much the last thing I have in my play-by-play. He came up with a steal with Ohio State up 65-30 after a 3-point play by John Mobley Jr. He came up with a steal, and then the guy fouled him, like basically like kind of tackled him, if I remember right. Which that possession ended with a bucket by Bynum, and that's when I stopped keeping my play-by-play. So Gabe Cupps in 14 minutes and 2 seconds doing his defensive things and chipped in a little bit of offense, 2 assists and a turnover. Brandon Knoll, after not attempting a shot in the last game, 4 or 5 for 8 points, 3 rebounds, and pretty much all his points were on dunks. Does a pretty good job of finding like moments, at least in this game, finding moments where he can get to the rim, where he can cut, he can take a pass and or beat a man off the dribble and go baseline and dunk it. Tilly seems to really enjoy finding him with some passes. And the other stat as well. Actually, we'll get into that one in a minute. So that's like the quick rundown of the box score. A couple things that really jump out to me. So we're going to move on now into a couple of thoughts that I have from the game, just overall, and then touch on big news from the day. Honestly, it could be as big as the fact that they won a basketball game, as far as like the future of the program goes. And also, I want to plug a story that went online Thursday morning that if you haven't seen it yet, I would humbly encourage you to go read it. So we'll get to that stuff before we get out of here. But first, I want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If you subscribe, you'll automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our man Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can grab them and publish them for you. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review. Please click 5 stars. And please consider telling a friend. Thanks to everyone who's taken the time to do all those things. You are greatly appreciated. All right, so a couple of just thoughts that I jotted down, and some of these, in all fairness to what I had said earlier, these came sort of later in the game. I tried to think about the game as a whole, but like with Ohio State up 37 and I stopped keeping play-by-play, some of these things were things that I would notice when obviously the balance of the game was not in doubt. And there was a moment or two where it got a little open gym-y, where there were a couple of just like rapid fire up the court, quick shot miss, up the court, quick shot miss, and whatever. But I do keep coming back to when I look at the bench and I look at where this bench could get, and I think about how prolific Matthew Griachich was this summer playing for Germany, and how he's just clearly not there yet at this level. Came into the game. Didn't play against Notre Dame. Total 12 and a half minutes of playing time through his first 3 appearances. Hit a 3-pointer against Purdue Fort Wayne, but has been one of the later guys off the bench. And in this one, he did get a little bit more run. Let's see. He played career high for Ohio State, 10 minutes and 38 seconds. Hit 2 free throws for his first career free throws. He also grabbed 3 rebounds, which were his first rebounds for Ohio State. But had a play, and this is again the game. The balance of the game has been decided. But he's driving in the paint, and the ball just kind of gets taken from him for a turnover. And I just thought to myself in that moment that like this is against the reserves of a MAC team. It was one little glimpse into there's still a long way to go, I think, from a growth standpoint, before he can really help this team. And I think I was certainly very intrigued by how his game would translate and what his impact could look like this season. To me, it looks like right now he's clearly on the outside of whatever rotation trim will be coming. But yet we know he's a gifted scorer, and that eventually, the belief is that you'll see that start to shine through. But with his size, if he can figure it out, he will help this team. But today was the latest reminder that like he's just not there yet. Doesn't mean he's not going to get there, but he's definitely not there yet. And staying in the backcourt a little bit, we did talk to John Mobley Jr. We talked to him and Amari Bynum after the game. Because one of the things that has stood out to me when I look at this team statistically is they need Mobley to do a lot. They're asking him to do a lot. We know that he can shoot. We know that he's a proven shooter. He's going to make a ton of 3-pointers this year. He has really, I feel, well, the numbers would tell you, he's really struggled from 2-point range. And he's also been turning the ball over at a rate that you would not like to see from a freshman going to a sophomore. His turnover rate's actually up from 13.5 last year to 16.4 this year. And this is mostly against inferior competition. He wasn't a great 2-point field goal percentage player last season. He shot 39.6%. He's at 33.3% right now. He's 8 of 24 from 2. Now he's shooting 38.2% from 3. He's 13 of 34. And he's a lead at the free throw line. He's 20 of 21, so he's 95.2%. He doesn't foul. He draws 4.8 fouls per game. He's 379th right now in assist rate at KenPom. And his offensive rating is actually, okay, this has changed in like the last game. It's ticked up just a bit to where his offensive rating is higher while his usage rate is higher this year. But the decision-making part of the game, I feel like, is still developing for him. And I think you see that in the turnover rate and you see that in the 2-point field goal percentage, because it seems like there's at least 2 possessions a game right now where he drives into traffic and either has a shot easily blocked or he turns it over because he's trying to force it in a situation where he's not going to have much of a chance for success. And I wonder, like, I feel like it's hard from having covered teams in the last couple of years where it's like, oh, once we figure out how to like make better decisions, we'll be a better player. It's like, well, are you going to figure that out during the season? Like, that kind of feels like it is what it is. But he leads the team with 11 turnovers right now. He is tied for the team lead in assists with 19. And I think certainly with his 3-point shooting, like, you're going to take some turnovers for a high assist rate, for his ability to distribute, and certainly his ability to shoot. But the 2-point field goal percentage, some of those that go down as missed shots almost feel like turnovers, because we've seen how this offense gets pretty good looks from 3 and can get guys buckets at the rim. There's not a lot of room in this offense for the mid-range. There just isn't. And I feel like a lot of the time, if it's a 2-point mid-range shot, it's probably coming from Mobley. And unfortunately for him, the odds are it's not going in. I mean, so he's got 16 2-point misses. This season, Tilly has 6, Bynum has 6, Thornton has 8, and Royal has 6. Brandon Knoll has 3. So this team is elite nationally in 2-point field goal percentage. The Buckeyes are 8th. They're making 64.8% of their 2-point shots. And that's with a player like Mobley, who has taken the 3rd highest number of 2-point shots and has only made a third of them. It's an area where there's some obvious room for growth, I think, in this offense and certainly in Mobley's game. I asked him post-game about efficiency and about kind of where he is in trying to like improve on that. And he said, I'm in the gym working on that. I'm not too worried about that. That's going to come. He said, trying to do other things well, being an impact if I'm not hitting shots, getting my teammates involved more, locking in on the defensive end as well. I also asked him, I said, what do you think you've shown as a team through 5 games? He said, I feel like we've shown a lot of toughness in adversity. App State, we couldn't hit a shot in the first half, just relying on our defense, relying on that toughness and that adversity that we go through every day. I feel like that's one thing this team does well. He talked about like really taking defense seriously, staying connected, communication, how those are big keys. And he feels they've improved in those areas since the first game. So we talked to Mobley and we talked to Bynum after the game. Now, moving on to another returner, and this was something that Jake Diebler was asked about as well. But I don't feel like we're seeing like the optimal version of Devin Royal yet. And it's an interesting spot because he obviously has the position change, moving from the 4 to the 3, but the hip injury has had an impact on his preseason. And I feel like we're trying to figure out like how much that might be affecting him, and like when like the new version of Devin Royal, I suppose, will be fully realized, because I don't think Ohio State's there yet. And when Jake Diebler was asked about that, he talked about, he said, I'm really happy with the transition. He said, more than anything, there's been a choppiness. It's been hard for him to get a flow, even in practice. Been really happy with where he's been. Defensively, he's been really good as well. Basically just said, like, he's not worried about it. He thinks he's doing fine, and that the injury has, like, limited some of his productivity as far as, like, getting better adjusted to that position. He said, I like that he's shooting the ball with confidence. I want him to continue to be aggressive. He's going to shoot it at a really good level this year for us. He said, I thought his activity in the glass was big. That's part of him being at the 3 is giving us an advantage on the glass. He said he did that great tonight. He played for fouls a little bit in the paint where he could have scored. So one number that I did think was interesting when I looked at just his stats on the season. So he's shooting 41.7% from 3. Now that's clearly an uptick from where we've seen him shoot in his first 2 seasons. This year, he's taken 48% of his shots from 3. Last year, he took 20.7% of his shots from 3. I would guess that Ohio State would like that number to come down more from 48%. Even though he is shooting at a good clip. And as I say that aloud, maybe not. If he's going to shoot 41.7% from 3, I suppose just let him shoot all the time like that. I've talked myself out of that. But I feel like they're going to need Devin's physicality and ability to finish at the rim at times this season, especially as they get into Big Ten play and they're playing against bigger, more physical teams. And we just haven't quite seen that from him yet in this position on the wing. So I'm interested what that looks like moving forward. And certainly as he gets healthier and gets his hip injury, firmly in the rearview mirror, we'll see what that looks like. But that is one thing I've thought in each of his last 3 games that he's played. It doesn't quite look fully realized yet. Now, looking at another one of the priorities in the transfer portal, bringing in Brandon Knoll. I still like the stat line he had in that Notre Dame. It's strange. He's got 1,536 points entering that game in his career. Not only would he go scoreless, but just wouldn't even get a shot. And he had a rebound, 2 assists, a steal, and a block in that game. So he's still was helpful. He still did some things for Ohio State, but it's not often that you look at a box score and you see starting power forward plays 19 minutes and 22 seconds and doesn't even attempt a shot. And I started thinking about that a little bit more watching this team today, and I'm starting to wonder if Brandon Knoll's offensive contributions are going to be more like Kyle Young type offensive contributions, where they're not necessarily calling a play for Brandon Knoll. He's going to get some stuff in the flow of things. He's going to be able to maybe exploit a mismatch or make a cut, get open at the rim, get a pass, get a dunk. But I'm starting to feel like you're not going to see. I mean, certainly Brandon Knoll's not going to average 19 a game like he did at Wright State last year. But it's starting to feel to me that he's emerging as a guy who's going to be counted on to do a lot of the other things that if he scores, that's great. And when he scores, he's going to have games where it's going to be in the flow of the offense. He's going to get, against Appalachian State, he was 8 of 10 from the field. He's only taken 3 3-pointers this season. Like, he took 106 last year. He shot 35.8%. So, not like a take 5 a game type of guy, but he hasn't done a ton of get the ball in his hands and let him make a play. And Diebler did say something after, I think it was after the Notre Dame game, where he was talking about how on any given night, they very much believe that Bruce Thornton, John Mobley, Devin Royal, Christoph Tilley can lead the team in scoring. We didn't mention Brandon Knoll, which I thought was kind of interesting. And he's had some he played really well in the exhibition against OU. I've heard he played very well in the secret scrimmage against Tennessee. But I'm starting to come around to the thought that they're not going to be necessarily trying to get him the ball on purpose a ton. And maybe I'm way wrong on this, and we'll see. And as this goes on, but his freshman counterpart, on the other hand, seems to be a guy that they are relying on a little bit more And it is interesting to see the production that Amari Bynum has been able to give this team, even while coming off the bench. And I do think there's a role there of like playing starters minutes, but coming off the bench and really seizing upon that and being able to handle that and contribute and give a spark. Like, we'll see ultimately how this plays out, but that second unit for Ohio State, he is emerging as a guy that they can count on a bit. And I do think that, like, when it comes to like baseline out of bounds plays and lob plays and things like that, like, he might be the next guy in like that long list of Ohio State players that, like, if you're running inbounds play from underneath your own bucket, like, might be looking for an Amari Bynum dunk. He was fun to watch tonight. He was like, that's just seems like a really happy dude. And Jake Diebler has talked at length about how much he's enjoyed, like, said tonight that he's becoming one of his favorite players he's ever coached. And he's only been on campus here for, a couple of months. And then last thing that I jotted down here is that, we're still seeing the rust with Tayson Chapman. It's been a struggle. He got the fewest minutes of anybody save for Braylon Nash. Had a couple of turnovers, like I said, late. He did swish a three-pointer that looked really good. At the end of the first half, with Ohio State was trying to get the final shot. Like, they've talked so much in these last, couple of, all season really, about like, be your best late. Play really well to end the first half, really well, obviously, to end the game. Really emphasize those moments, like leading into the half, coming out of the half. And in this case, Ohio State had the ball with about 30 seconds left and called timeout, drew up a play, and then they had the ball in Tayson Chapman's hands. He was dribbling time down to set up for the last shot. And then what ended up happening was Christoph Tilley took a three-pointer with 6 seconds left. He didn't make it, and that gave Western Michigan a chance to push the ball up court, and Broncos got a last-second buzzer-beating three-pointer to pull within 49-24 at the half. Diebler said after the game, like, that sequence started too soon. They went over in the timeout, like, do not start until this time, and then they started about 2 seconds too early. And when you talk about giving up a buzzer beater, like, if you didn't start 2 seconds early, you probably wouldn't have given up the buzzer beater. So there's still definitely some learning going on there for Tayson Chapman. And he's missed a lot of time. It's been a while since he's played any sort of significant, consistent minutes, and you're still seeing it. And at this point, he does look like the odd man out in that backcourt rotation. But with his size and with his skill, like, there's an opportunity there. I'm going to maintain that all year. You can't coach 6'4", and as this team gets into Big Ten play and starts playing bigger opponents, they might need him to be able to be capable to be a third guard next to Thornton and Mobley. I remain somewhat skeptical that they can play Bruce, John, and Gabe Cupps all together for extended sequences when they do play against bigger teams. But those were some of the things that I jotted down. Just a couple of thoughts I had kind of bouncing through my head as this game was winding down. But now to move on to the other news of the day, which is that Ohio State landed a significant recruit. LJ Smith, 5-star prospect in the 2027 class, announced his commitment to Ohio State. Now, this is something he had actually committed a little while ago, and then it just went public on Thursday. But, like, the coaching staff knew that he would be committing. And there's some interesting, like, numbers here when you really start to look at it. Like, so obviously Ohio State has signed 5-star Anthony Thompson in the 2026 class. Ohio State hadn't had a 5-star since D'Angelo Russell in 2014, depending on which recruiting rankings you're looking at, because he wasn't a 5-star in 24/7 Sports. But so you can look at D'Angelo. If you use the 24/7 Sports rankings, you go back to 2010. It was the first 5-star since Jared Sullinger, and then you go back a little bit further. Well, when's the last time Ohio State's had back-to-back 5-star players in recruiting classes? And it's the Greg Oden, Mike Conley class going into Costa Kufis the following year, going into B.J. Mullins and William Buford. So that's how long we're talking since Ohio State has had 5 stars in consecutive recruiting classes, which kind of breaks my brain that it's been that long. But I did get in touch with LJ and got some thoughts from him on why it was Ohio State. And he spoke about the belief he has in Jake Diebler and the relationship they've built and how well he thinks he's going to fit into their system. He's a big guard. He's 6'4", $180 right now. He's playing at Oak Hill Academy this year after playing 2 years at Lincolnton High School in North Carolina. Really high-level scorer. Averaged 30-plus points a game as a sophomore. Is closing in on 2,000 career points at the high school level, and he's like, tonight was his first official game of his junior season. ESPN, I mean, you can turn on, or you can go to ESPN.com right now, go to the college basketball page, and you see that headline right there. 5-star recruit LJ Smith commits to Ohio State for 2027 class. Like, these are the headlines that Ohio State recruiting is getting right now. The Buckeyes beat out like Kansas, North Carolina. These are recruiting battles Ohio State has not won in quite some time. And if you look at the ESPN story, co-written by Jeff Borzello and Paul Biancardi, they point out that he took visits this fall to Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina. He's ranked 10th in ESPN's rankings. So he's not a 5-star in the 24/7 sports rankings. We'll see how that unfolds as the year goes on. According to ESPN, while he was playing up an age group in AAU this year, which I did know that, it says that he averaged 13.8 points and 3.6 rebounds last spring and summer and shot 41.9% from 3. ESPN describes him as one of the better long-range shooters in the class of 2027. He can make shots off the catch and from a rhythm dribble. He displays body balance with vision and positional size, while also demonstrating excellent transition ability with his straight-line driving ability. The article continues, what makes Smith particularly hard to defend is he's equally effective scoring off the ball as he is with the ball in his hands. He moves with purpose off screens with a change of speed and direction, reading his man and squaring up into his shot. When defenders close out hard, he shows instincts to drive it and can finish at the rim against help defense. I've also been told he's really like a two-way player. He's talented defensively. He cares about defense, about manning up and matching up with someone. I've heard him described as a taller John Mobley Jr. So this is a big deal for Ohio State. And I do think this also signifies where high school talent sees the program headed. And now ultimately it's on this team this year to really maximize that and to prove all of this correct. But, you are starting to look at a recruiting, you're looking at recruiting momentum here, the likes of which Ohio State has not seen in quite some time. And I'll have more on who he is and what kind of player he is and all this stuff. Like, there'll be a lot more to talk about here with LJ. He won't sign for, a year. It won't get to Ohio State for 2 years, but pretty big deal when it comes to Ohio State basketball and the recruiting world. He's the first, according to, at least in the ESPN rankings, he's the first 5-star junior to commit anywhere. All right, and then the last thing I want to mention on here, and I don't want to give the whole thing away because I really would encourage you to go read the story, but I had a conversation earlier in the week. I wanted to do a story about Colin White getting his first career start for Ohio State. Just seemed like a neat thing. From my viewpoint, I could look over and see his family when he got announced as a starter, all filming it on their phones. It was a cool thing to look over and see. So I thought, all right, well, there's a story there. Let's talk to them about it. And not only was I surprised to find out that Colin didn't tell them that he was starting. He did find out, obviously earlier in the day. Said he kind of had an idea, leading into it, just based on the fact that he was basically running with the ones with Devin being out. So he didn't. His parents didn't know, but there was also, and we saw them coming in. But there was a bit of an Ottawa-Glandorf contingent. It's a really tight-knit community that really loves its basketball. And it's not uncommon to look over and see there's a couple of people wearing Colin White shirts or Ottawa Glandorf shirts at a home basketball game. So I come to find out that not only did his parents have no idea, but there was a family that had made the trip down from Ottawa Glandorf, and they had bought the tickets to be there because Daryl Guyton, who's an 84-year-old basketball fan, played high school ball, his daughter told me, but loves Ottawa Glandorf, really enjoyed following Colin White through high school, would listen to his games on the radio, would watch on TV when he'd be on TV there. But they, as a family, they decided to get him tickets for the Appalachian State game because Daryl was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer a couple months ago and really wanted to get to go watch Colin White play. And so they just so happened to pick the game that Colin White made his first career start. And sometimes the way that things line up, it just seemed incredibly, it's getting late. My words are failing me. The opposite of a coincidence. There seemed to be more to it than that. This was almost this was supposed to happen. And that was something that Colin said when I talked to him, that he saw God's hand working in this, which I thought was a neat way to look at it. And when I talked to Daryl's daughter, Lisa Felke, she basically said the same thing. Thank God for giving us this opportunity for our family and for Colin's family to have such a special day. So obviously there's the family side of it of Colin's family is so excited for him, so proud of him, all those things. And then you also have this elderly fan who is going through an awful battle with cancer. And this was a moment that just meant so much to them. And so I don't want to give away the whole story on here. But I'd really encourage you, if you have a minute, go check it out. Not that I don't try hard on every story, but I put a little extra into this one to try to do it justice. So hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you so much to Lisa and for being willing to talk about it. And we all know cancer sucks, and there's no way around that. Everyone knows someone. And Lisa and I talked about my dad has fought off multiple types of cancer, and just some of the treatment that her dad is going through is what my dad went through. And there's, just kind of a reminder that we're all in this together. And when you do find something good, just inherently good, and you can celebrate a moment like that, it just felt important. And I'm super appreciative that I got to write that story. And I hope you enjoy it, and send some thoughts and some prayers over to Daryl and his family as he tries to fight this off. So probably a good place to wrap this one up. It is verging on 1:30 in the morning. I got to get kids on the bus here in a couple hours, so it's time to go home. And my voice is starting to give out, which I got to figure that out. But I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm not going to podcast again until we'll do one after the Mount St. Mary's game. So Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning. And then with it being Thanksgiving that week, I would say hey, let's do one for the Pitt game, previewing that. But it just doesn't seem with the holiday. We'll probably not. And then I'll have something for you. Hopped up on Diet Mountain Dew in a hotel room outside of the University of Pittsburgh on Black Friday night. So that's the tentative plan here for the next week and a half. As always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardy@dispatch.com. Thanks again for listening, and thanks to Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, for getting this out to you. I'll be back with you Tuesday night. So until then, be kind, take care, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.